Whose law governs a contract between two entities from different jurisdictions? Now, this is a question that comes up occasionally in business. It can get very important in some cases. Sometimes different states here within the U.S. have different interpretations of different clauses, different interpretations of what triggers liability. And so, which state's law governs can be very important. But then moving to international, which country's laws govern also becomes very important. Now, from a practical perspective, in more sophisticated transactions, typically this is discussed and negotiated early in the process. There's actually thought given to this. And one thing you'll typically see in a contract is a quote governing law provision. And that provision will say whose law governs the contract. This is governed by the laws of the state of Florida. This is governed by the laws of the state of Texas. This is governed by the laws of the state of California. These are all states that I'm licensed in, that I've seen contracts governed by. And then as we move into international transactions, sometimes you'll have a negotiation of which country's laws apply. That can get more complex, and what you often have in those cases is a U.S. lawyer like myself working with an international lawyer who is licensed in the other jurisdiction, and we're trying to bring all the pieces together to piece together what happens for a client. This is to say nothing of the venue provisions, where the case would happen, and those types of things, right? So not only do you need to think about whose law we're going to interpret this under when the court looks at it, but you also have to think about which court is going to look at it, because a venue provision is a provision that says basically where's this case going. So that's going to affect which type of judge you get, what appellate decisions exist, because here in the U.S. we have different appellate regions. And so essentially, everybody's locked into what their region has done for the most part, to oversimplify. And so if there's binding cases in your region, your courts are generally going to agree with that. So you may even find within regions of the U.S. that we effectively have different laws. And then, of course, internationally, that can be a massive difference. It can be a massive difference even in how the legal system works, the practicality of remedies. What does this all mean to you, the business owner, who we really run this channel for? It means planning, understanding, and thinking. This is why it's important that we get into these contracts and wire them right. And if we leave out the governing law provisions, wow, we can end up with a real free-for-all. We can end up with courts fighting for jurisdiction, trying to determine whose law governs, and we could end up spending a lot of time just on that foundational issue of whose law is going to govern. And then, if we haven't thought about it, it could lead to a whole host of unintended consequences. That's why you want to get a good lawyer licensed in your jurisdiction working with you. They can work through these issues with you as you get into contracts, talk about these risks and benefits, talk about what might happen, and help you do the planning. So that's why you really want to build a legal team, find a lawyer licensed in your jurisdiction that's familiar with business law that you want to work with. They can kind of be your quarterback, help you flag the issues. Maybe you do have to bring in other law firms, but it's great to have one point of contact, somebody you really like working with, that you can say, hey, let's do this together. We'd love to hear your comments and questions. Now, remember, comments on something like this social media type channel, they're public. Other people can see them. So don't put anything in there you don't want other people seeing. For confidential things, talk to your attorney, and that's generally going to be attorney-client privileged. And then, of course, I hope you subscribe to the channel so we can see each other again for more videos very soon. Looking forward to reading your questions and possible topics for future videos. We've had some great suggestions lately. Maybe you've got one for us too.